Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound podcast. I'm your host, I'm Nadeina, head of growth at saas.group, a serial acquirer buying wonderful SaaS businesses to take them to the next level. And here I chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business success. And today with me is Veronika, CEO and co-founder at Demodesk, one of the leading platforms for virtual sales. And well, let's dig deeper. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anna. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's start, at the beginning with your background maybe and a bit of inspiration behind Demodesk.
Yeah, sure. So I started Demodesk a bit more than 5 years ago together with Alex. Before I was a consultant at Bain and Company, so working in strategy and consultancy and private equity, and also doing a lot in sales and marketing. And so we actually founded a business because Alex initially had the idea of finding a better approach to screen sharing. So he thought that while people are still recording their local desktop screen, the content that you are sharing is already hosted in the cloud on the server. So why would you take this unnecessary detour of downloading something to your local computer, to your local desktop, then filming it again, recording it, and then broadcasting it back to the server and then back to the user. So his idea was basically just to cut that down and upload and just make it faster and easier. And that's actually how we started. We then looked at the technology and also won a prize for the technology with the German Ministry of Economy, and then looked at different use cases and found sales the most exciting one, because especially in sales, virtual meetings were on the rise back then already, right during COVID. I mean, it's like kind of obvious and clear to everyone that this is the new way to go, at least like for part of the sales conversation. And it's not necessary to meet everyone in person. And so that's how we then also developed the sales meeting platform initially, which over the years has become more of a suite of products. So now today we have three products. We have a scheduling product, a video conferencing platform with real-time guidance for sellers, and the latest product edition, our third one, is conversation intelligence software that also works on top of Zoom, Meet, and Teams, and also other dialers, and analyzes your conversations, and also gives you coaching out of the box, so you can be a better sales rep and get better with every call.
Okay, that's perfect. But I get this is your first venture, right? You're a first-time founder.
Yes.
How did you know that, this is something that you want to do? Because for a lot of founders, it's such a leap of faith. At times you just leave your very sustainable, well-paid job, jump into this new adventure. How was it from that point of view for you?
Well, I was studying in Munich at the Technical University, and there's an additional study program which is called CDTM, and it's an additional program that you do on top of your studies. It's only 40 people per year, but they basically educate you to be some sort of like entrepreneur. A lot of German startups are emerging from that ecosystem. So I was part of that, and also Alex, my co-founder, was part of that. That's also how we know each other. And since then, so since I started at CDTM, like it takes 1.5, 2 years. For me, it was clear that I either want to found my own company or join a startup to really build something that can have an impact on people's lives. But when I was done with university, I just like felt too young. So I was 22, 23. So by that time, I didn't really feel ready to, start a business, and thought, hey, like why not joining basically a proper professional school, which at that time was Bain and Company, which also taught me a few basic things about, how to communicate with customers, how to write professional emails, how to manage yourself, how to manage others. I learned a lot of things there, which then at some point in time also made me feel ready to like leave Bain and then go back to the startup world.
Okay, that makes sense. But were there any challenges as a first-time founder to just like navigate, build this new product, maybe go from product to company? What was the most challenging or the most exciting for you?
Yeah, of course, like the 1,000 different challenges, like new challenge every day. um, uh, yeah, so in the beginning, of course, like one challenge was to, get a salary, right? So we didn't have funding from day one. We got a scholarship from the government. It's called Exist. So you get it in Germany. You have to go through an application process, and then if you're successful and you get the grant, then you receive salary for a year for up to 3 founders. I mean, it's like not a lot of salary, but like still, it's some money, right? That supports you during the first year of building something, and especially while we were still exploring use cases for the technology that we've built. That helped a lot, like to not start with nothing, and that also helped us then to just first find a proper product, a proper market that we wanted to focus on before we actually raised first money. And then we raised from Y Combinator. So in 2019 we applied, and that was then also our first funding round. And that was also like a challenge on its own, because we applied for the second time. So first time we applied, we didn't get in. Second time we applied, we were further, we had more customers, a bit of revenue, and then we actually got invited. And also got accepted, and that helped us like with the funding piece. But I mean, except for the funding piece, like of course, like we at the beginning, like you feel like so much ashamed for your product, right? So even in early days, like looking back, I'm wondering like how anyone could ever have used the product seriously in their business, like in the first days at least, because it was like breaking almost every day. And I mean, it was a meeting tool, right? So it has to work every time reliably, which like today it does, but like back then it was crashing with every update that we have run and with every deployment. So like at least like half a day a week it was not working, which is just kind of insane when looking back. But yeah, I mean, there are a ton of challenges. I don't know. You let me know which types of challenges you think would be most interesting for the audience to hear. But
Sure.
ton.
But it's great that you mentioned, how at the early stages, a lot of products are just very buggy and not really functioning so well, or at least to the customer expectations. How did you navigate this? Because it's really interesting. Just today I was reading a blog post about customer support, and how in small teams you don't really have this motion of onboarding and then qualifying leads and then customer support. It's all kind of the same thing, all kind of merged together. How did you navigate this, customer communication, support tickets, making sure that you apologize in time, explain what happens, and just keep them at peace, because like tomorrow everything's gonna work?
Yeah. And yeah, like it definitely was tricky. I think it's mainly three things. So number one, of course, you have to build a good relationship with the early customers, right? So making sure they know you, they also like you. And in the beginning, we mostly acquired customers from our own network, also primarily from the CDTM network, and then also from the YC network. So we had a personal relationship with them. It was easier to explain, when something wasn't working. And also, in a lot of cases, they were also startups themselves. So of course, they also had, just like more tolerance for these things. Number two is just like you have to be super positive and super optimistic, that you just gonna fix all these things, like even though like so many things that you sorry letters and off so many things that you will have to fix, and it will take some time, but you have to believe in yourself and the team that like you will be able to get it done, and just look forward, and like instead of like seeing all the issues, number two. And number three, just also like need to basically also willing to do all the dirty work, and cannot shy away from, I don't know, like supporting customers, fixing bugs yourself, doing just whatever it takes, to get this to get this going, and just make sure like you get your hands dirty with everything that's necessary.
Absolutely. So you mentioned customer acquisition, and I want to ask a bit more about that. So you got your first customers from your network, and then, because just by looking at the platform and what you're offering, I feel like it's a bit of a merge between POG and sales led motion. So what was first? What was your chicken and an egg? What did you go to market first with? PLG and then added sales, or the other way around?
I mean, like only sales in the beginning, right? So when you don't really have traffic on your website, when you don't really have a lot of marketing budget to spend, also you don't really know like how to use marketing budget and where to get leads from, and also don't really have a brand. There's no other way than just reaching out to customers directly. We also did after we had joined YC. I mean, of course, you get some press coverage with it, and of course, then I mean, more people like see what you're building. But we also did a product hunt launch at the same time, and were I wouldn't like, say we hacked it, but we like did a lot of research like how to make sure we make the most out of it. And that then also like brought us a couple of signups, and like some of those signups then also turned into customers later on. I mean, it's like less than you would originally think, right? So even like if we got also product of the day, and I mean, it's not that you get like 10,000 customers from this, right? But still, I mean, like all in sum, direct outreach, YC, product hunt launch, it was enough like to get things started.
Okay. Was it the only product hunt launch? Did you go there again with featuring new features and just the developments that you're making and getting more customers from there, or did you kind of sunset that source of users?
Yeah. It was the only product hunt launch that we did. Two reasons. So the first reason was that over time we focused more on larger customers and not on single users. And I mean, most people like who are on product hunt like are mostly like indie companies, like small companies, individual persons. I mean, of course, you also like have other people, but like that's the majority of users that would sign up. So we thought that was not like the perfect target market for us. And number two, we also think that if you do something, you have to do it properly, because just listing something in Product Hunt and not like investing time into actively promoting it, like getting a lot of like upvotes and making sure you have the right hunter. I mean, like a lot of things you have to take care of. So if you like just launch something, like it doesn't really work, right? You really have to like make a plan and invest time into it in order to make it work. And we might do another product hunt launch over the next couple of weeks. We are still deciding, because especially a new product that we have, which records you Zoom, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams calls and gives you coaching after every call out of the box. Of course, can also be used by smaller companies and even by independent users. So it might be a better fit again with also a larger audience. So it might be the case that we're doing it again, but then of course also we will have to invest some more time in it and make sure it's successful. Because also you don't want to be listed on Product Hunt, right? And then like only have 20 upvotes, and then those upvotes like maybe are not necessarily even good, or like the comments are not good, reviews are not good. Like that's something that you really don't want to have. So you want to make sure that like when you are listed on a platform, like it's also positive experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how you approach it like channel by channel, just making sure that it makes sense for you as well. It's not just listing on every other source out there. And well, since you started talking about the product and the new launch, I wanted to jump right in because you're also AI powered. And I wanted to ask if that was kind of the intention, maybe from the early days, or it's, it just came because of that trend and, a lot of startups, a lot of companies jumped on it and it really powered them in terms of product value and what they give to the customer. So what was it for you?
Yeah. I mean, it was part of our vision since day one, right? So our vision was to enable anyone to be a great seller with technology. So providing everyone with the support they need in real time while talking to the customers. However, I wasn't that advanced when we started the company. So we had to revert more to a structure of playbooks and talk tracks that you would manually set up, or that the sales ops person or sales leader would manually set up, put into the system. Like you couldn't just build something with AI, or like also like analyze your sales conversations with AI and then magically like take out a playbook, because I mean things like were not necessarily statistically relevant. So in order to really like analyze like a number of conversations and get valuable insights from it, like in the past, you had to have like a lot of conversations that were working in a very similar way in order to have like statistically relevant insights. And AI tools, we also like saw a lot of other companies that also started with us that focused also more on this like AI piece, but the insights that you could really get as a sales team in the beginning like didn't really go far beyond you mentioned too much, or your talking speed was a little bit too high, but like really like deep insights was super difficult. But now since GPT 3.5 got launched, things changed, and just by using AI models and then letting the conversations and the transcripts that we have, letting them run through these AI models, like you can get amazing results if you write the right prompts and if you like use the system in the right way. And yeah, that's also why we like once it was possible, also then jumped on that train.
Okay. How did you change your pricing when you introduced AI? Because, well, pricing is difficult as is, but there is pretty much no data, right? Not enough companies that have gone through this journey. So what do you base your new pricing on? What was your decision?
And so we looked at alternative products or like similar products, like the one that we built. So our latest product, the name is coaching. The name of the product is Coaching and AI. So we like join your, let's say, Google Meet meetings. Demodesk note taker joins, transcribes the conversation. We analyze the conversation, summarize it for you in the right format. Also, take sales specific dimensions into account. So we also give you summaries that really like help you in sales. We also detect which meeting it is automatically and then apply the right summary. So that's what actually the product does. Plus the latest piece is we also give you a coaching out of the box. So we let an AI coach run over your transcript and give you insights into like what did you do well and where could you do better going forward. So you close more deals and get a better seller. And like we also use like the framework that we use, we developed that based on, over 1 million sales cores, and sales cores have like a specific framework that we use. So we fall a little bit between, and like I just explained it because in order to get context right, so we fall a little bit in between like two types of products. So like one product is just a pure AI meeting assistant like Otter or Fireflies that is basically free. So you can use it for free as a single user. It just transcribes your calls and summarizes them, but it's not sales specific, right? It doesn't give you coaching. It doesn't really give you anything that makes you a better seller. Like those tools are for free. And on the other side, you have tools like Gong or Chorus that is super expensive. They are sales led. You can't just sign up as a single user. You need to purchase them. You need to go through a sales process. You need to be at least like, let's say 10 to 20 people in the sales team and then implement it. It's a quite complex product suite. And it's like more like $200 per user. So that's also how we like basically then defined our price. So at the moment it's like 49 per month per user if you buy an annual plan. And so we think that's fair if like you basically have most of the advantages from Gong, but still like in a self-sign-up experience. It's ready to use. You don't have to set up anything. You can just try it out. We also at the moment offer it for free for a couple of weeks to selected users to just get things going, because it also has a viral component, our product. And then the last piece, of course, is also looking at cost, right? So we have a cost for every word or for every minute that we process and that we let run through the AI models that we use. And we are basically getting charged for that and need to also like bear the cost. And that's also the dimension that we took into account, but at the moment it's minor. So like for our use, like the cost is not like significantly high. And yeah, that's how we then like started at a certain price point. But of course, like over time, also that's how we did it with the other product. You adapt your price. You also like can implement additional price tiers for additional features. So especially in our case, like if we like once we expand the platform, we will definitely also have additional prices, because otherwise like the cost will just become too high if you let, for example, run like different meeting summaries and different like AI prompts over every single sales call. Then of course the costs are much higher if you just do some basic things with it.
Okay, so why did you decide to go with tiers and not just, push it on, all of your customers? Because, well, maybe you think it just makes sense. And correct me if I'm wrong, you keep that AI feature as an add-on. So I can, as a customer, I can also subscribe to that AI feature to transcribe and help me coach, well, myself as a single seller, for example, and pay $49 for it on top of what I pay for Demodesk already, or is it a different use case?
So Demodesk customers, before we had the AI product, right, they were like using our meeting product, so our meeting platform.
Yeah.
Like they were not using Zoom, Google Meet, or Teams, but they were using Demodesk for their sales calls. So of course you also get the coaching and AI features on top of the Demodesk meeting platform, right? Of course it also works with that. However, we also want to make the coaching and AI product, so the new AI product, we want to make it available to users who don't want to run on the Demodesk conferencing platform, but who like want to continue using Zoom, Google Meet, or Teams, and also want to analyze their sales calls, like say air call, dial pad, cloud call. So we sell it as like a separate standalone product, but of course our existing customers can also buy it as add-on, and it works super well with the Demodesk conferencing platform.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. All right. So, since you're making sure that sales reps' lives are easier, how do you structure your sales strategy and your sales approaches? Because, well, you said that there is still part of the product that is being sold to, I guess, bigger customers, and sales-led approach was what you started with. So, yeah, how does it work for you? Is it an in-house team? Is it a remote team? And what do you think about this different setups?
Yes, so we've always been a remote team because in the early days, Alex and I went to San Francisco or Mountain View in order to take part in YC, right? So, and then we also spent a lot of time in the US, especially before the pandemic, so 2019 and early 2020. Then like since March 2020, like for 2 years, you couldn't really go. Like it also didn't make sense to go to the US, right? Because no one was in the office. But before that, we already set up the company in a way that you could work from anywhere and also hired people from different locations. So our sales lead, for example, is located in Lisbon. He also has been with us for quite a while. My co-founder, so I work from Munich, and my co-founder lives in Kiel, which is near Hamburg, so like the northern part of Germany. We just make sure that we like see each other every once in a while, so at least like once a quarter, that people come to the office that we have in Munich, but like our standard setup is remote.
Okay, and what do you think about the motivation and the competitiveness that there is in sales team when they are in house in your office? How do you deal with it? How do you make sure that it kind of remains there if you're a remote team? If is there any advice that you could give to companies that have remote sales teams that maybe struggle with keeping everyone in the loop and making sure that the motivation is there and they're all doing it for the same goal?
Yeah, we also had experience with hiring SDR teams remotely, so hiring also very junior people, especially during the pandemic, that have never been a seller before, and also have never worked remotely before, and that didn't really work. So especially when you come out of university. And like you go into sales, like in the beginning, you really have to be around people. I don't think, to be honest, that it works if you hire very junior people, let them work in sales, and then they, let them alone at home. From our point of view, like it didn't really work. It worked when we made them come to the office. It also worked when we made them work closely together. But the remote setup also doesn't work for everyone, right? So now when we hire people, we also really make sure that this is something that they want. Also, this is something that they in a perfect world also did before. They feel comfortable with, and they also need to have like some sort of self-discipline and like independent way of working. And that only then I think it works. So it really depends on the personality of the people that you're hiring.
Okay, all right. So what would be your, again, tip, advice on how to support sales teams on daily basis?
So what worked super well for us is regular stand-ups. It doesn't have to be every day, but at least every second day. Like in the morning, we like over Slack, we have like a 15-minute sync. And before that sync, we make everyone post their main achievements of yesterday and core focus for today, like in bullet points. Like it's super short, but it also helps you make sure you focus on the right things. It also helps the team to stay aligned on what everyone does, especially if you're not sitting in the same room. And we also like do communicate a lot, so we like have like a ton of Slack channels that like always are busy, so we just over communicate a little bit, at least in written form. And but the stand-ups, I think, are really crucial to really make sure that you don't miss anything that's important, because sometimes you have like a lot of work to do during your day, like a lot of things happen, and then maybe you don't really have time, or like have time to like proactively share important things with your colleagues. But when you're going to stand up, you're basically forced to, and you also have the platform to do that. So for us, that works really well. And I think it's, there's like probably no magic trick. I think it's like a combination of a lot of things. So personality of people, like how well you know each other. So especially in our case, like the current team that we're working with, like we also know each other super well. We have been working together for quite a while, and also we have like a very high level of trust, and also like everyone is great at what they're doing. So we just work together super well. And then like also some minor things like stand-ups and just like written overview of like what your key achievements were, and making sure you like focus on the right things. And then of course also we have a lot of other tools like all hands, which is bi-weekly, where we share updates with the entire company, and just of course also team meetings that we have. So like product team or sales team or CS team, they also have like at least weekly meetings, and also meetings with other departments. So it's a little bit, over communicating on a couple of things in order to make sure we're aligned.
Okay, yeah, alignment is extremely important. I want to ask you about that, but because you started talking about how sales team can be stretched a little bit, right? There is a lot of communications, there are goals to hit, there are a lot of channels on Slack that you have to take care of. How to how to make sure that your high performing sales teams are also uh, performing on such a high level healthily, and they are they're not overwhelmed because on top the product changes, or the circumstance of customer changes, economical situation changes, and then you have to maybe learn about that and use it in your communication as well. So are there any things that you're doing to make sure that your sales team is also not overly stretched?
So regular one-on-ones with the people who have team responsibilities, making sure that it's not too much for them. Like if they say, yeah, they are overwhelmed, and if they say like they have too much on their plate, then we just like sit together, go through their work week, go through the tasks that they have, and like either just reprioritize together and say, hey, I mean, this is not important. We don't do this now. We do it later. Or also redistributing tasks within the team, or also I take work from the plate, and I basically support them directly. So this is how it has worked for us in the past. I mean, of course, in a startup, it's always a lot of work. So I think if you work in a startup, you, especially also in a VC finance startup, you like have to be willing to just like handle a lot of different things and do a lot of different tasks at the same time, especially when you have team with responsibilities. But and really making sure in one-on-ones that everything is all right. That's for us, or at least in our case, is the most important thing.
Okay, all right. I think you have to be proactive to not let this happen in the first place. But yeah, coming back to the alignment, I've interviewed a few founders who are building tools for sales teams, and it's always a very hot topic: alignment between sales and marketing teams, and also the responsibility over qualifying leads, over pricing, over what is being what goals are being pushed. So in case of Demodesk, how do you make sure that the entire team is aligned, that marketing and sales are basically the best friends if possible, and that everyone knows what is going on and what is supposed to be taken to the customers?
I think it's kind of normal that there always is some friction, right? Because sales always wants more leads, and marketing like always wants like sales to use more of the leads that they generated. So yeah, I think it's and it's also fair, right? It's fair that sales always pushes for more leads because that's their job, and I think it's kind of like part of the normal day-to-day job. I think it's definitely also important to make sure, like again, that they closely stay aligned. We also in the past, I mean, used different systems, like for example, setting a joint common goal for sales and marketing of producing qualified like SQLs. So while marketing developed leads, sales was responsible for, making sure that like the first demo or the first meeting is booked, and then also afterwards telling marketing if the lead was good or not good, and really logging that into the system. So they had like one common goal, and we made sure that they aligned. But I mean, again, there was still like always friction, and I think it's like normal, and like also has to be like this.
Okay, interesting. All right, so I want to come back to what you just said about being VC funded and having to sometimes aim for a rapid growth for you personally as the leader of the company. How do you communicate that growth and the necessity of growing so rapidly, and maybe sacrificing something for that growth? How do you navigate it between the team and the investors and the leadership?
So I think in our case, everyone always gives their best. So like I already assume that, right? And I also like know that like people give their best. It's just also like up to me or up to the C-level team. So me, my co-founder, and my CPO to make sure that they focus their time on the right things. So that's just something that like we have to make sure. In terms of align with investors. I mean, in our case, we never really like had an issue. So our investors were always very supportive. And if growth hasn't been where it should be, which like of course in SaaS, like no one, like almost no one reached their growth targets like last year. And if anyone says so, then again it's like either like a very specific market that like hasn't been impacted by I mean like the trough, the tech trough, and also the funding trough. So just also a lot of our customers, they like really made huge layoffs, especially in the sales team. So we had one example of a company that I mean, was funded, and then like a couple of months after funding, they went from let's say 20 people to I think like 150, and of course, like then also purchased like a ton of Demodesk licenses, and then 6 months later, again they had to lay off like 70% of the entire team, and that like happened a lot, especially in SaaS, and I mean that like was not our fault. Like it's of course you can't do anything, right? If like your customers have to lay off parts of their team, we do also feel in our revenue because we sell on a seat basis, and we also saw a couple of customers like running out of money, going bankrupt. So I think that's just part of the normal way. So as long as you just make sure that you make the best out of every situation and really focus on like the right things, focus on the right customers, and then just not letting demotivate yourself like from things that you can't really influence, which is like really a market thing, then I think it's fine. You also can explain it to investors, you can explain it to the team without making anyone being too demotivated. The last 2 years in SaaS, it was not always about, like 10x growth a year, but it was more about, hey, I mean, like times might have changed a little bit. I think it's over now, to be quite honest. So I think, I hope. So we do see some signs of customers, like again, hiring more than in the past. We also do feel it after they have like, a lot of companies have laid off a huge part of the team. Like now they focus again more on efficiency and look more at software that they can use in order to make their teams more efficient, especially like with the use of AI, right? So that, of course, is also a trend that now benefits us a little bit. But yeah, especially the last 2 years, it was not all about growth. Like it didn't really matter whether you were VC financed or not.
Okay, that completely makes sense. I mean, the last 2 years weren't really easy for anybody. But talking about retention, right, and how you cannot do anything when it's the market situation, you literally cannot influence it. But on the other hand, retention's such a huge thing right now, and everyone's talking about. Yeah, you might be right. It is kind of a spring is coming. It's getting easier for SaaS. It looks like it, but what do you do in terms of retention, in terms of preventing it? How do you see when, customers are about to churn, we need to do something, and what do you do so that, it doesn't happen?
Yeah. So we have clustered our customers into three groups, three tiers. Like, so number one, like, is high touch. So customers that have a larger number of seats that generate like a larger number of revenue. And so we stay close to them. We do quarterly business reviews with them. So we basically speak to champions, to key stakeholders at least once a quarter. With some, we even have bi-weekly check-ins if it's a very large customer with a very large team. And then the second tier is mid-touch. So we just like have regular check-ins, but don't necessarily do a QBR. But of course, also like when they need something, like we also like there, like sometimes even in Slack, and I have a shared Slack channel, and there's like the third tier, which is more like self-serve small customers. And like we don't really do like any proactive customer success there, where they just reach out when they need something. So that's like one side. The other side is just we track a lot of data. So we also do see how active users are. So with the meeting product, we do see how many meetings they schedule, whether that's going up or down, how many meetings they're hosting. We also, of course, always see when like they add seats and stuff, so like basic things. But then also with a new product, we also see how many recordings people have, like whether it's going up or down, how active they are, how often they log into the platform, and we just like take all of these indicators to also calculate some sort of like customer health score. And then once the customer health score is off, then like we also decide if we want to reach out proactively, even if it is a tier 3 customer that doesn't get proactive support. So like those two things. So like a very active CS team that like manages their customers in clusters, plus like using a lot of data that tracks it activity and calculates customer health scores, helps us really to prevent churn as much as possible, and also like know if something is or really like know early enough if something is off. Sometimes churn is also unavoidable, right? Because sometimes customers, I mean, they change the business model, or sometimes they like grow out of your product or service. They need something else, so that sometimes just happen. I think it's also like part of tech company life.
That's true. That's true. We just recently had an AMA about churn and, different ways to prevent it. So I wanted to get your opinion on how to do it. But yeah, a couple more questions. And the first one is, so far for you as a founder, what has been in the journey of the company the biggest win and the biggest failure?
I mean, two biggest wins. So, like, number one was being accepted at YC and going through that 3-month journey. And number two, when we reached 1 million ARR, that was definitely like a huge milestone for us. And biggest failure, I think there are like so many things that you fail on, like people leaving the company, or not winning a customer, or losing an important customer. But for me, like personally, like always, like the biggest failures are when I hired a person that like supposed to be like a key contributor to the team, so like on the executive or VP level, and then it doesn't work out. So that for me is like always a very big failure. So I don't want to mention any specific position or name, right? Because it could be like a possibility that the person listens, but that was like for me like always is part of biggest failures.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you always invest in your team so much time and all the resources.
In them, right? Like you invest time in them, they also invest time in you.
Right.
So I think it's like shared responsibility. And I mean, if you like notice that you've hired the wrong person out of whatever reason, right? Like maybe because of like yourself, or because of the other person, or just because it's not a fit, can be multiple reasons. I think that's like always super tough. And it
Definitely.
happened a few times.
Not naming any names. Okay. So the last question is usually about a hack. And I guess, well, since you are in sales, maybe there is a sales hack that you could share with the audience.
To be quite honest, there's like not that one single sales hack that helped us like all through the way. It was more a combination of like trying out a lot of different things, and really like getting your hands dirty and just doing everything it takes. But I think the product hunt launch is something that we definitely hacked. So we also built a bot. I mean, now today there are some LinkedIn bots like Wallexy, where you can download like a list of leads from LinkedIn and then send automated messages. But back then we just built something like this ourselves, and then 2 months before the launch, asked everyone in our network to sign up for Product Hunt, and then the day of the launch, we like again sent an automated message to and asked them to upvote the product. We also did a few other things, so like that's also definitely something that we have hacked. Another thing that has worked super well for us is customer references. I mean, also nothing that is like super new and super unknown, but for us, it really worked super well when we asked customers proactively for other customers or other potential customers that they know who could benefit from Demodesk, and also gave them an incentive to refer us by just giving them money if they became a customer. I mean, we're still doing that, or giving them like a larger discount. Once they refer someone who also then became a customer of Demodesk. So that's really something that helped us grow.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing this. I think, well, even though they're not maybe super revealing, sometimes it's really important to just remember about those things, because you tend to forget if you focus too much on building the product. So thank you so much, Veronika, for sharing the story and sharing your hacks and pieces of advice. I think that was really helpful for the audience and for everyone who's listening to this. Really excited to see the next launch on Product Hunt going to upvote, and yeah, happy
You
to do
get
it
an
again
automated
sometime.
message. He's
Yes.
joking.
Now when I get the message, I know it's automated. So yeah, but yeah, happy to do it again sometime, and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much. Enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks, and take care.